Good evening and welcome along to the new and improved prehistoric original LFC Daytrippers podcast video show. We go back to our roots, we delve deep into the Anfield agenda and see what the index of thoughts are going through all the Redmen on TV tonight. Of course, this is different than before, so before we Anfield wrap up at the end, we will meander down many cop-white streets and couches until we've turned all the boots in the boot room stables. Tonight, I'm your forum admin. That's me, Phil Casey, bringer of topics and the folly of chat. Joining me, of course, I have my good friend and colleague, Andy Young. On this
Good evening.
One of the founders. Below him is Gar Breene in Australia. G'day, Gar.
G'day, mate.
And this way, we've got Ray Dicko Dickinson. I don't know which way the fingers go. All right, Ray.
All right, lad.
Good stuff. Hang on, I can take this off now and reveal my true self. All right, good evening and welcome along to the forum. It's great to have you all on board again tonight as we reset the show and reset what we do on the Monday night. Excuse me. Hopefully that's not the start of something more serious. Anyway, we have to go into isolation for the next 43 days or so. Right, lads. It's great to have us on board. It's great to see what's going out in the world of LFC. It's great to see the Premier League's back. It's unlucky that we didn't get a nice result out with Chelsea tonight. But we want to talk about the real topics, the real things that are going on in all the Liverpool fans' minds. And with that, we're going to slightly change the style. We aren't going to look at the here and nows of the matches that are coming up or have been in the past. We're going to look at specific topics and larger sort of agenda stuff that goes on. So we want everyone out there to get involved. Throw us your comments, anything that comes up as we go through the topics. We'll happily get into. We want to hear what your opinion is. Expect us to meander a wee bit, but away we go. And first topic up tonight, lads, it's something that Gar's brought up to me, and I think it's fairly relevant when we look at how the matches have been panning out in the Premier League since the restart, especially with the new season kicking off in closed grounds. So, Gar, you were saying yourself, something I noticed as well back in March and April, the impact of fans or the lack of fans within the grounds. What do you want to? What's your take on things so far, and how do you think it's impacting the games as you're seeing them arise?
Phil, we touched on this back in March, I think it was, in regards of how it possibly would impact us as a team, I suppose, as Liverpool. And you've seen after the lockdown issue that we came back, and yes, whilst there sporadic training sessions etc. would have disjointed any sort, but it's really hit us because our 12th man obviously is regarded known as our fans. And then you've seen it again the weekend on a game where our fans would love to come back in and we'd be roaring ready for the start of a season. We're all this Premier League, the fans would have been chomping at the bit even more, I suppose. So it's you can see it's having an impact on us on the side. But I suppose there's the other side of it, lads, where you've got younger lads coming into sides who are probably a bit more distant at Anfield, for themselves coming on. And I suppose any young players that start for us, I suppose Curtis Jones has been coming in, it'd be probably more relaxed for him. But then you've got the other thing of players who probably have the fans on their back a bit are at ease as well. So there's a number of issues that could arise. Is it the number of that will come into Anfield a bit more,
Andy.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this kind of from the emotional point of view. I think Klopp, a major part of his motivation and his technique of motivating is all about the fans and what's happening inside the stadium. Early on, when he had a go of fans about leaving early, he rallied the fans up during the week. So you got to imagine behind the scenes, Klopp talks about the fans quite a bit throughout the week in training, and just to G the players up, uses that. So what does he go to when when he's trying to motivate the players. Now we seen against Leeds at the weekend, we were able to come back 3 times and win the game. My biggest concern is if it was late on the game and you haven't got the noise and you haven't got the fans kind of giving the players the extra 10% that they need, just that energy, finding our second win to get a goal. But we managed it at the weekend. It's going to take time, I suppose. Come back after the restart. I think we won 4 and drew 1 at home, something along them lines. So it didn't necessarily affect us. But we won't really know until we have a bigger kind of sample. But it's definitely something that I think is a big part of our game, is the supporters, and I suppose we'll see it in the Champions League, especially. It's big. It is a big concern of mine.
Right, you're a season ticket holder, so.
Yeah, I mean, like last season, obviously we get another promoted side, and there was quite a few of us from the podcast who were there, and the atmosphere, the build up, it was electric, and I think I think sort of knowledge, they played well enough, but the limitations were exposed on that stage. I think this season with Leeds coming to Anfield, they didn't really have the same inhibitions. They just went for it. It was just another game of football for them. And I think we're going to see a bit of that this season from teams. I'm kind of convinced at some stage we're going to lose that undefeated record at Anfield this season. They did give us a bit of a fright at the weekend. I also think we had started to kind of run out of a few ideas. And it was only a stupid challenge, really, that gets us that last penalty with a couple of minutes to go. And I think if the crowd was involved in the game from an early stage, especially going 1-0 up after such an early stage, like 3-4 minutes in, whatever, I think Anfield just would have been absolutely buzzing. And I'm not convinced that would have turned into a 4-3 game like it did with a full-on Anfield crowd there. So we just have to deal with it. The strange thing for me now is going to be when you start seeing some fans back in the ground, and that's almost strange, really, when you see other games in other countries and a few thousand fans, and you're probably going to find that certain fans are going to, because there's less fans. If there's those negative fans getting on players' backs, the players are probably actually going to pick up on that even more. So that's going to be interesting when we see fans back in the ground in fewer numbers.
Okay, look, just want to pick up on some of the comments they're making, and I think some are valid. If you look at the stats, I think we've won 5 and drawn 1 won 4, drawn 1 since we've had no crowds in Anfield. It seems to be having little impact when you look at the overall results and where we've ended up. I think there's one there from, let me see, Stefan Mack. He said we had 20 shots versus 4 shots when you look at what the game was like at the weekend. Kieran B said he'd rather have football than no football. And we would have won comfortably had Bobby scored like he should. Now, getting away from the micro of the match, because I'm not going to go back over the Leeds match. For me, anyway, I think, and it's something that will pop up in a later topic, probably my topic. But I think for people watching, I think what's driving us more mad is the fake sound. Right. At first, I thought this is a great idea. I remember watching when football came back in the Bundesliga and they put the fake sound in, and it was sort of moved with the flow of the match. Now it feels like, when you've played FIFA for like 6 seasons or something like that, right? And it just feels like it's dialed in, and it doesn't have that natural. It doesn't have that natural sound to it. So there's no real change in the songs. There's no real change in the atmosphere, the mood. You can't feel when there's the one thing that I got before we went into lockdown, if you remember, even though we went into full-on "We Are Liverpool" tra-la-la-la-la buzz that we get as we get towards the end of the season and something is riding on us, you could feel the crescendo of expectation as we got into the last 15, 20 minutes from the crowd. That's missing. Now, it's to be said, and it's to be commended from the players, to win as many and score as many last 10-minute goals as they have with no crowds there. That's a fantastic commendation of what they've managed to do and maintain that mental strength of just winning games. But there is a part of me that worries about the defensive lapse, because we have been really poor defensively since the lockdown. And you wonder, is there a little bit of that concentration goes off without the crowd. So you know that the audible sound when somebody's attacking or somebody breaks free in the box, and it sort of keeps you that little bit sharper in defence than you do necessarily need in attack. And that's the only bit that I'd question, is it still there? I suppose the number stacks up and says it doesn't really make that big of an impact. But for me, watching the game, I think it's an incredibly poorer product than when there is crowds in the matches. And I think this idea that doesn't make that much of a difference, it definitely impacts the atmospheres across all the grounds, with the exception of Arsenal and Manchester City. Because it's exactly.
Yeah, just quickly on the game, Van Dijk completely embarrassed the fake noise person there. Like, they didn't have a clue that ball was in the back of the net. It was mad.
They put the ooh on to way too late. I suppose it's player dependent, isn't it? Some players are going to it's going to help their concentration to not have the crowd there. Some players, it might change how they actually act in the game. You know what I mean? You know, if a big tackle's thrown in, the crowd gets G'd up, and then there's loads of big tackles get thrown in. Someone's liable to do something that they may not have done previously. You know, they feed off that emotion. Also, as well, if you're at Anfield and you hear a big "man on" shout, I often wonder, do the players ever? Does that ever help? You know what I mean?
I think it does,
because you mightn't have to. You might be able to hear your player near you with the crowd noise, but if the whole crowd say "man on," maybe it helps. And an interesting one, when the fans do go back into a ground, it's going to be easier for fans to communicate with the players. You know that dickhead that sits behind your ticket, Ray?
Yeah.
He's actually got to be able to have fully blown conversations with Robertson now. He's not going to be drowned out now. So that's another factor. Robbo's going to have to listen to him.
Andy, do you think there should be a top Reds test and a bottom Reds test for getting back into the ground? Well, that you can only get back in if you're a top Red.
To be fair, he's a top Red himself. I'm sure he's the best of intentions and he means well, but he has a very bad habit of telling the players to do the wrong thing. And and with Robbo so close to him the whole game, I could see Robbo telling him to just shut the fuck up. Like, it's not so bad that we have to listen to him, Ray, but when Robbo has to listen, or when Mo was out there.
Did you see the fella tonight in Germany heading into the stand and doing an Eric Dyer and knocking the head off some fella in the stand? Did you see that?
Yeah, there's a potential for more of that. You know yourself, like sometimes you're standing there and some fellas abusing the players. Not so much now because we're so good, but I don't know. Do you remember Glenn Johnson's one of his last seasons?
Yeah, one of his last games.
And someone was abusing the whole game, and he ended up coming over and calling him a bell end or something along them lines. So that's if things kind of take a bit of a turn, that's what we're going to be dealing with. Those bell ends in the crowd are going to have a bit of a.
Yeah, you can see places like Spurs, you can see that place becoming toxic. If fans are allowed back in and they're in the middle of a horrendous run,
Yeah. Plus, when it gets to December, it's going to be freezing, isn't it, for fans in there? You don't have someone beside you keeping you warm.
Cuddle up. They say it's a bottle of rocket through the sky. The only thing I will say, in terms, like Carl O'Donnell makes a point, without the crowd, it'll come down to football ability, and we're better than the 19 other teams in the league, so we should be set to go again. Okay, one thing on this. Right? one thing I'll ask you on this, right? When you look at when they took the fake crowd sound away the night that we won the league, right? And you could just hear the noise in the ground. There was still about 100 people in there cheer. Remember when they scored the goals? You could hear a real cheer going on from the bench, from the players and everything like that. You could hear from the reporters, I call them fans, but the reporters that are in there is a sound in the ground that, like, you lose. Like, I was watching now if we think ours is bad, I watched the NFL last night and they literally have not copped on as to how to put a fake sound on it. Like, there's things happening, there's just random sounds going on. But anyway, back to this, before I got way off on a tangent there. But, like, yes, I'm sort of with you, Gar. I think from a viewer's point of view and from watching it, it's definitely a poorer product, and it's something that's going to impact television money if it maintains that for a while. But from a player's point of view, people are saying that Salah's better without the crowd. There's a lot of people that were saying that we should sell Salah who are now saying that he's better without the crowd at the end of the season. Forget about it. Muppets. Anyway, right. Arsenal doing
Chris,
so well.
I think Chris. Yeah, you were just about to Chris Brack saying Arsenal doing well because of no crowds, and it's a hindrance to them. I think there's something to be said for that, especially allowing Arteta to bed in and not have people jump on his back if the game isn't going their way or they don't get a result. And I think that's a bit of breathing space that he's really benefited from. I think when the crowd returns there at Arsenal, I think there'll be a lot of positivity in that stadium.
I couldn't agree with you more, right? And actually, to add to that, I think 3 big teams that really are benefiting from the lack of crowd. Arsenal doesn't have its toxic fans in there, right? Because they are basically the most toxic bunch of fans that are out there at the moment. Everton is so much better without fans because that place is just a bottleneck of poison. And then United, that Old Trafford has been literally sewage since Ole was in there and Moyes and Mourinho, right? And they all the teams, they have benefited the most of having no fans in Old Trafford because they were having their green and yellow protests until they won a match, and then everyone was celebrating again. Then they're having more green and yellow protests, and then everyone's getting sacked. And what's your man's name? Greeny Greenwood was off, and he was doing rubber bands and everything. And then you had Martial and the lads doing all sorts, right? So like United, definitely. I just put the fans back in. Does it really matter if there's an outbreak now at this stage in United's ground? I don't think so. Right? You know what I mean? Let's be honest about it. So,
Phil, there was also 2 other ones that stood out. Yes, there was the West Brom crowd not being there, and how average their players were, and also the West Ham game, and how average they were as a side without, they're usually ferocious, as you say, fans getting on their backs. They were malodging.
I couldn't disagree with you more. They're 2 absolute mule-ass sides. It doesn't matter whether the fans there or not. Do you know what I mean?
That lad's really good with that delay.
Right, lads, we're moving on. We're opening the next section of the forum, right? So the next section is the Bobby Firmino enigma debate, right? Who wanted to talk about this?
That was my
Must have been Andy.
That was yours, Andy.
Defend Bobby Firmino.
Yeah. I can sit here and defend him for 15 minutes without you guys having a word if you want. No, I think it's worth talking about. Lately, there's a divide in the fan base about Bobby, and
a divide in the fan base.
Yeah, I know, and quite often when there is a debate in the fan area, divide, like I'll allude to say Emre Can, Mohamedou Sakho, they were players that really divided the fan base. You've probably catered doing it for the last couple of seasons. Are you heading off, Phil? You're just getting a pink drink. So it's definitely worth talking about. I'd like to see what comes up in the comments as well. There's quite a few people even before we started saying that he needs to do more. We can't defend him any longer. There's huge fans in the comments there as well. I know Stefan is going to go on cap lock if we start slating Bobby. But the main point is, even though his productivity is down, especially for, I know he's a false 9, or people want to call him a 9, or he's playing in the 10 role. Okay, his goals, his productivity, chances he's creating, they are down, and you might expect a bit more than him for that. But for what he does with his movement and what the bit of lifting he does in midfield as well, you won't find another player. You won't find too many other players in world football who will be seen in our box at the beginning of an attack and in the opposition's box at the very end of an attack. So going replacing Bobby Firmino is going to be extremely difficult. You can kind of cope with his numbers being down. I don't know where we turn when eventually say Klopp starts agreeing with this kind of dark side of the fan base who's saying, no, they've enough of Bobby, he needs replacing. What happens then? Who comes in? Give me some names in the comments, and we see could he do it. Because I think you're looking at a total shake-up in system, in formation, everything to replace him. You might bring in someone who has a lot of goals, but then you're expecting your wide players to do an awful lot more tracking back and get involved, helping the fullback. So we've a really good thing going on at the moment. It's finding a good false 9 like him again is going to be difficult. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean,
Are you finished? Have you got all your words out?
Yeah, well, I have more, but
Have you got any big ones?
what?
No big ones, no.
Go on,
Okay.
go on. You could be the dark side. I know you're capable.
I mean, no. Look, the fella.
I'll wait for Ray.
I'll just chip in briefly. I mean, the fella who sort of springs to mind to me is not just because he was playing tonight and he scored. Is Jimenez for Wolves? I mean, he's the only one who I could at the moment say plays, in a similar way to Bobby, really, and he does seem to get quite a few more goals. For me, the goals thing and even the assists thing to an extent, like it's not the thing that would frustrate me about him, but he does seem to be getting increasingly, like I am getting increasingly frustrated with him in games because he does seem to be giving the ball away a lot more, and he does seem to be making the wrong decisions a little bit more often than he maybe once was, and losing the ball in dangerous positions. We've seen it on Saturday, and he has to give a silly free kick away and a yellow card. I just think he's a little bit off it at the moment. I don't think I still think he's a perfect fit for the system, and I think he's still someone that Klopp will back 100%. I don't think he's kind of looking elsewhere, shall we say. So I think we do just have to, he's always had these really kind of quiet spells when he's looked off colour, and I wouldn't be surprised if we're like 5-6 games in and he goes on this great run and he's banging form and we're all raving about him again.
Gar, I'm going to ask you a question. You can answer me in 5 minutes, right? So when your feed catches up. But you being a coach, how, most of people's argument on this is purely about his fit for the system, and if without him, the system doesn't work as well. So come on, tell me something.
Well, we've seen for 2 years, 3 years now, his work in that role and how he allows the two, inside wingers, as they're called now, to create goals, to score goals. His general play is generally amazing. A few bad touches the weekend, but that sometimes happens with Firmino, let's be honest. But what he does is link up, and everyone says it, lads. Every pundit alludes to it, even the stupid ones, on how well he does link up play for our midfielders who generally aren't, attacking midfielders. He's our main attacking threat to link up Salah and Mane in that position he plays in. Yeah, there's a goal. There's a chance he goes through one-on-one the weekend. He tries to dink the key. Then you've got, stupid stats going around Twitter. If you believe Twitter, you're believing the wrong sort of people, that he didn't create a chance the weekend, etc. But I did post something yesterday that he clearly creates a chance that we nearly score from. So his all-round play is generally, 8, 9 out of 10, lads. Let's be honest about it. He does a lot for Mane and Salah in regards of how they play as inside wingers and how they can come in and score a lot more. And we've seen it. Salah's got 2 penalties the weekend, but we've seen it in his goal. He's on the aims in. He scores from the crossing.
So we've now had the top Reds take in Andy, the middle Reds take in Ray, and we've had the Australian Reds take from Gar. I'm looking at what the lads are saying on in the comments. They're saying about the importance of what he does. It's not necessarily about the goals. It's about the system. It's about if he doesn't play, then it doesn't work as well because we don't do as well. Well, sorry lads, that isn't necessarily true because we still managed to win nearly all the games that he didn't play in last season as well. Because this is what happens when you have a season like we just had. It's very hard to have that argument as to whether it worked or whether it didn't work. However, my issue with Bobby Firmino is he's very streaky. It goes back to what Ray said, right? He tends to hit a really, really green patch of form and will score 7 or 8 goals in 4, 5, 6 matches, right? He will then not play well for 2 or 3 games. And as Ray says, he does give the ball away. He drops into deep areas and gives the ball away often in mad positions. He works his arse off to cover those giveaways, but he does give them away, right? And sometimes you're sitting there going, for fuck's sake, what are you going to do next? There is, I totally get it. I also think he doesn't have real competition. And I go back to, if you look at Salah and you look at Mane, they probably feel a little bit more pressure this year with the emergence of Minamino, with the emergence of, say, Curtis Jones, that all these guys are looking for places in the team, and the natural fit, or even Oxlade-Chamberlain, will be in either of those flanks in the 4-3-3, right? Origi's not going to step in and replace Firmino. He's not going to do any of the same job. The only one we're really talking about is Minamino. We thought that maybe Brewster could do it, come in and do it. So there is a complacency possible there in Firmino, that he knows that once he's fit, he's playing, unless his leg is falling off or something like that, he's playing. And that, to me, I don't like that type of complacency. I would prefer to see. I actually think if you judge him not as a centre forward and as a number 10, his return is excellent. If you judge him as the player who's playing behind Mane and Salah, his judgment, his return is absolutely excellent if he's getting somewhere between 12 to 16 goals in a season, right? That's because we have ridiculous Salah and Mane getting 20 plus. But it's just a slight variation on how you look at him as a player. So when we look at a replacement, and I said this before the break, I said it last season, if I'm looking at a replacement for Firmino, I'm not necessarily going to buy a centre forward. I'm not buying a Jimenez. I'm not necessarily buying somebody like that, Ray. I'm looking at saying, okay, who can we get that's a attacking midfielder that scores a lot of goals? One of them potentially would have been Havertz, who's gone to Chelsea, not Werner, but Havertz, right? Because he plays, he's got an eye for goal and plays there. But if we were to go into the market now and buy somebody with experience, I think Thomas Muller would be an absolute worthy for us playing off the two of them. When we're talking about it's slightly different, doesn't have all the tricks and shimmery that Firmino has, but can link play immensely. Like we've seen him through the years at Bayern Munich, right? And but he is getting on a bit.
How old is he? 42, is he?
56. Him and Roger Miller. Him and Roger Miller shared a birthday there on Wednesday. But again, it has to be somebody who I'd see, if you're looking for a competition for him, if his most natural competition in the squad for me is actually Curtis Jones. If we're looking at players, is who can sit into that role where he comes on, but I don't know what his finishing level is like. And Firmino wasn't renowned as a finisher, but before he came to Liverpool, he was a number 10. He was an attacking midfielder, and when he came here, he was moved into the number 9 position that we see Klopp playing him in. But he's not your number 9. It's just because he's wearing number 9. If we put number 10 on his jersey, people wouldn't be going around with the same takes as it is. So from my point of view, I think, could we get somebody else? Potentially. But we need to look beyond what we're saying. We're probably looking at these lads with making up names that are in Spain or in Italy or in Portugal or something like that, right? And you're playing them instead of a true centre forward, because their centre forwards are two lads who play out wide and cut in and score all the goals and do all the damage from there.
Just, I guess, you mentioned, sorry, go ahead, Ray.
All I was going to say is that we'll get some opportunities, I'm sure, this season to see how things work or don't work with Bobby again. So, we'll get to see some alternatives. We might see Minamino, we might see Origi back in there at some point. And I guess they may be reminders for what Bobby does mean to that front three.
Yeah, I think in the same way, Henderson took a lot of stick from the fans when he played in that 6 for a few years, and probably didn't play as well as he did from kind of December, January time this season. He was a bit of a scapegoat. Yeah, we all agree on that. He's done a lot of work for the team and took the very little credit. Bobby's kind of went to an extreme lengths in the stuff he does behind that people don't exactly notice. One example of that was when he any other striker in the world, any other player coming down and goal with a shot, and he tried to cut it back to one of, I think it was Salah or Mane coming in. He's so selfless. It's grating on supporters. I mean, I don't know. In the current squad, who can come in and do his role? Phil, you mentioned who'd you mentioned? Curtis Jones.
I'm trying to think outside the box, Andy, because people mentioned Shaq.
A lot of people are mentioning Minamino. Ox could probably do it. I suppose anyone who's prepared to do a bit of work, and then when they come in, when they do get a chance, they take it. But I think it'd be very difficult to buy a player out there and convert them so quickly.
It's a good point there by Chris Brack. Are Bobby and Gomez the new scapegoats? I think the Bobby thing is
we have to have some, don't we? Let's face it. I mean, if you go back, you'd say the keepers were for a while. That got sorted. You
Stuart Downing.
You had Degsy. Yeah, if you go that far back, you had Lallana. You had plenty. So, and we got to the stage where we kind of eliminated, those players. So I guess there is generally one or two players who come in for regular targeting.
Yeah, even Alisson was taking a bit of stick there after the game about his weight. Can you believe it? I mean, we're really clutching our straws to think of something to slag around players over here. Talking about a goalkeeper who's put on a bit of weight. He doesn't move. You know what I mean?
It's very hard to stay fit when you're not moving ever, isn't it?
Yeah.
He only had to move 3 times at the weekend, and he didn't move, Andy. So
yeah,
he's morphing into Mignolet.
Phil, you being the expert in goalkeepers, do you think he could have got to any of those, or should have got to any of those?
I think we've been so blessed and fortunate to have Alisson saving things left, right, and centre. We're just not used to conceding goals, and to me, it's the biggest shock that we've had since February and March. Is that I'm not used to seeing him concede goals, and when he concedes goals, it's sort of freaking me out, and it's still freaking me out at this stage. And you do go, what, is there something going on here? How come he's not saving these anymore? Anyway, look, going back on this, right, and looking at the Firmino thing and looking at the whole piece, an awful lot of people do get upset about this. There is a valid question that are going, what is the succession plan? And probably leads in a wee bit on these rumours where we hear about Salah, on where Koeman's agent was saying that he wants to buy Salah, fair play to him, and that he heard Salah might like to go to Barcelona, but it also leads into what is the succession plan. Now we're all in with Klopp. We know Klopp's time is finished soon, right? He's openly saying this. It's not like he's putting it there as just a thing, saying, oh, for a new contract or whatever. I think he's genuine when he says he's going to see out his contract, and that'll be him off into the great blue yonder. But you gotta look at the club and say, okay, what does the succession plan look like? We built the squad specifically for this Klopp era, for the whole lot, right? But do we let all these players go to 29, 30, 31 and then look to replace them? Because we're going to have to spend a lot of money at that point in time. So is this the logic where we don't spend loads of money? And I've read the Swiss Ramble article, and I know that they aren't borrowing because of the current pandemic, and they're nervous about income lines, revenue, and all this. I get that, right? But assuming there's a normalisation, and we get back to looking at the squad, looking at the whole, ideally, wouldn't you be bringing these players in a year, 18 months before you have to replace your superstars going out the door? And, isn't that sort of where the frustration comes from when we look at this? When we hear about the likes of Salah leaving, you get that sort of, when we're talking about Firmino, it's about, well, who's the next one in after Firmino? Because it's not Origi. He's not up there. He's not good enough. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Look, your succession plan is exactly Klopp's plan. This is Klopp's 4th last season as per his latest contract, right? The players would be too old for him not to replace by the time he leaves, and he'd be leaving us in an awful mess if he didn't. But then, if he is going to create a new Klopp era, a new 11, a new Salah, a new Mane, then it's going to have to kind of happen next summer, because he won't get the chance to work with them. If he's going to leave us in a really, really strong position for the next manager coming in, it's going to have to happen next summer or the summer after at the very, very latest. Now, like, the Swiss Ramble was good. It makes a lot of sense. Really valid points about what's going on in the current climate. Makes a few forecasts on the Nike deal. But there's a lot of smoke and mirrors going on as well about FSG and their finances. They'll say one thing, but they're the ones who only really know at the end of the day what sort of money is coming in. This summer wasn't a needs must type of summer to buy players. We've a really, really good 11, 15 players, 16 players. When they're all fit, we've a really strong 15, 16 players. The time wasn't now to replace them. They're all coming into their prime. Chelsea, United, City, they all had to spend more than we had to. Players, even teams coming up, had to spend more than we had. It's kind of 4 windows now, I suppose, without them making a kind of a marquee signing. But they have tipped along. Minamino was a good addition. Tsimikas, we needed a left full. Goalkeeper today. Like, these are small signings that could have a big impact. We know Klopp is really good at getting good value out of the team. So, although the strategy seems like it's a it's a a sell to buy, but it really is more of a kind of one out, one in. So when we do need to replace a player, like a big player, like a Jordan Henderson in the midfield, or like Mane or Salah, there's nothing sure. They will go out and buy the best player available. When we needed a goalkeeper, we went out and bought the best goalkeeper in the world and broke the world record.
Eventually.
When we needed, under Klopp, when we needed a centre back, we went out and got Van Dijk. We needed Firmino, we went out and spent the money. When we need it, they do spend. Now, net spend is so over talked. It's ridiculous. Income is income. You know what I mean? You can't fault them. They've done extremely well, especially since Klopp has come in. And whatever way it's designed in the back with they've dropped the transfer committee thing. But we know there's people behind the scenes that are suggesting the players for Klopp using stats. They're doing extremely well. I don't think they should be coming in for the sort of stick that we do read day to day in social media.
I think it's interesting reading the comments here, Ray. Like, so many people are getting upset at the idea that we're questioning the policy, questioning is this the right thing to do. I think it's a valid question. Look, it's you should be able to debate these things and be able to have a conversation around. Is it what type of policy you're pursuing? How does the club view succession plans? Even if they know that Klopp is leaving, what is there? Is this transfer system that they have in place just really about cogs in the machine? And that when a new coach comes in, he becomes part of that machine, and there's another cog that's there essentially. And we know, and I'm not belittling Klopp's ability as a coach and his ability as a manager to manage these things. But again, if you look. Henderson is heading to the wrong side of 29, 30, right? For Genie is already 30. I'm just looking at players who are approaching that.
Yeah.
Van Dijk is 29. So you're looking at these players who are essentially the spine of the team. And at some point, they will need to be replaced. Like, we've had Henderson since 2010? Is it 2000? He's been there at the club 10 years or nearly 10 years now at this stage. He's one of the first signings that FSG made, like first big signings that FSG made. And obviously, we know that Genie has a year left in his contract that's there. I wouldn't be too worried about Van Dijk because he has that ability to see what's going on. But if you look at Salah and Mane, right, and Firmino, surely one of them, because I think Salah will be 5 or 6 years at the club next year. The likelihood is one of them will go next year. And the way our club operates, we look to maximize the amount of money that we receive for players. If you're looking at, say, a Mane, isn't that the ideal time to sell him? Is probably next season when you're getting 130, 140, 150 million, and based on our current model, that essentially gives you the funds to go again. In the same way that Chelsea are claiming that they're using the Hazard money and whatever other money they spent or saved over the last 2 seasons to rebuild what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, we're in this sort of strange position, if you like. I'm kind of comfortable with our policy to effectively kind of reap what we've sown over the last few years in terms of the players that we've got. Certainly the first kind of 11 and a few beyond that. At the end of the day, at the moment, like this is a team in its prime. The back four picks itself. The goalkeeper picks himself. The front three pick themselves. The fluidity is kind of in the other four players, and it's good to have that variety that we've got, between all of the midfielders we've got and the different kind of systems and whatnot. So, I'm quite I'm not one who's getting too concerned with the lack of transfer activity right now. With that said, though, I would be surprised if we stay dormant beyond these next 2 windows. I think, and if we're not making plans now for the next for next summer, then we are being quite foolish, really. I think the business side, you've got to be realistic and say that either Salah or Mane goes. I'm not sure how much really Firmino will command. He's very kind of specialist, really, to what he gives us. So I'm not sure that the true value of a Bobby going elsewhere will necessarily be seen. But definitely Salah or Mane arriving at the new camp or whatever will be the splash sign and that they would want. So you're going to get big money for them. I'm happy with with not happy, but I'm comfortable with those players moving on as long as we've got someone lined up. But then you've got that kind of trick of, well, when do you bring that player in? Because if you bring them in, if you sell first, everyone knows you've got that cash there, so you're going to end up getting stung for massive money in whoever you bring in. And then on the other hand, the finances may not be there to bring in the player ahead of time, sort of thing. When you're dealing with that kind of money, we seen Suarez come in just before. We knew Torres was going out the door, so we brought Suarez in. But we were talking of 25, 30, 40 million back then. Here we're going to be talking about maybe 120, 150 million. You know what I mean? Like things are going to shit at the moment at PSG. They've just lost the Champions League final. You can see that, you can see the manager getting booted out soon enough. Would Mbappe come? That's the type of signing that I would like to see as a replacement to a Salah or a Mane, because at the end of the day, I'd expect us to be potentially, back-to-back Premier League champions, maybe in another Champions League final or whatever. So we should be able to command the attention of those sorts of players. So I'm not losing my shit now like a lot of people are. Obviously, everyone loves the signing, and you see Chelsea lining up with those new players tonight, and everyone likes new things and nice things. But I think we just need to relax and enjoy the fact that we've got our best team in a generation right now.
Yeah, well, I look an awful lot of questions. I think I can't remember who said it. Let me see if I can scroll back. And I think it may have been Kev. It was Dave Lennon. He asked a question. He said, would Liverpool have improved if they'd made the signings Chelsea have? And I suppose it's a hypothetical question at the moment because we don't know how these players are going to pan out in England. But my gut take would be that if had we signed Havertz and we signed Werner, we would have added to the squad and potentially had replacements there for when a midfielder or a forward had to be replaced. So you'd probably bed them in for a season, but it's a lot of money to spend in the current market. You're talking about 150 million there on two players for who may or may not be starters for us. You know what I mean?
And the wage thing is a massive thing, Phil.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I'm not disagreeing there, Andy. Like we can't have these people also saying that we want Naby Keita to be the future of the club and do all this, right? And then you say to yourself, right, but we want to go out and sign Havertz, and he's not going to get a look in. I thought it was positive to see Keita starting at the start of the week, at the weekend, over one of the lads in midfield. I thought it was interesting that Fabinho was left on. It looked like definitely a more attacking type of spin. How we didn't sort of use our fullbacks and didn't use that method to get at teams. So, for me, I don't believe we'll sign an Mbappe. I don't believe we'll spend 100 odd million on Sancho. We will try find the 35 million Salahs and the 32 million Manes and the 22 million Firminos, because that's what the model is. And we have to trust that model, because that model isn't changing as long as FSG is there.
But having said that, when we had the available money, the Coutinho money was spent on buying the most expensive goalkeeper at the time. And Van Dijk for 75 million, and a lot of fans thought we were paying out ridiculous money. So if the money's there in the war chest, then the famous war chest, then I'm sure it'll be spent. Well, just another quick one, Andy. What sort of succession plan did the FSG out lads have when we actually won that league?
I mean, I don't know. It seems to them it's as simple as like banging the club up on eBay and the highest bidder just takes the club. Like, it's that simple. I don't think there's too many people out there that are prepared to maybe pay, I don't know, what's the club worth now? 2 billion. And investors are going to want to. They're going to want something they can maximize their shareholders' wealth. So they're going to be buying your Newcastles, your West Hams, and thinking that there's something there that they can maximize that's not being tapped into at the moment. But Liverpool are probably at their peak value now. But just in terms of the strategy, right, like I feel it has evolved over the years. It's always remained spend what you have, but we have an awful lot more than we had 10 years ago. So okay, Coutinho enabled us to buy to break the record for a centre back and a goalkeeper, but the Nike deal is going to enable us to strengthen when we need to.
Glad you mentioned Nike.
Yeah, segue. Well, yeah. If we see a long-term injury, or we see Firmino has a total shocker of a season, and we need to replace him, or someone in the midfield, that deal does enable them to spend massively to replace a first 11 player. But you're not going to bring Havertz in on 350,000 a week, before any bonuses to challenge our midfield, or Werner to look. Yeah. What's the most attractive prospect for Werner? Come to Liverpool on 100 grand a week and maybe earn 200 if he gets into the team and he's top scorer and all those things that go with it. Or else go to Chelsea, be their talisman and just get loads of money. But I mean, what's more attractive to a fella like him? And that's what it came down to. Klopp has mad conversations with players before he signs them. He asks Ronaldo what he do on his holidays. He looks into people. He looks as if their ambition matches his and matches what the current team have. It's not always the most shiny player that we need, and it's not always possible.
Yeah, I think someone in the comments there mentions it's Marty mentions Raid Spurs for Dele Alli, the player I'd love us to go him for at Spurs when that continues to go to shit is Son. Yeah. He's someone that we could pluck from there and make an absolute global superstar. Yeah.
And that's a player that makes so much sense for Liverpool.
I have to say that there's absolute murder going on in the comments, which is great crack, because it is genuinely like a forum. Remember like the old days, Andy, in a forum where there'd be lads killing each other about their opinions and stuff like this. This is great. Let's keep this going.
I'm reading the comments and it's very entertaining. It's probably more entertaining than we are. There's people calling each other terrible names. They're all very bold.
I have to say, Dave Lennon puts up a comment. Lucas Moura, I think if we're talking about somebody who could come in as an alternate to Bobby Firmino, he was excellent when he had that run when Harry Kane wasn't being Harry Kane and Spurs all over the place, and he more or less got to a Champions League final and was able to do little dropsy-offy great things and help the wide players in around the place like Salah and Mane. You could see him playing in that or being a competition in that role. And let's raid Spurs. They're getting knocked out of the Europa League, they're getting knocked out of the Carabao Cup, they're getting knocked out of the FA Trophy Vase, they're getting knocked out of the five-a-sides. They can't even play. Do you see that thing with Mourinho? Great stuff. Let it keep going.
The great thing about the comments, Phil, people are telling us now Son is 28.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to sign Son. That's rubbish now. Thanks, lads.
He's done his military service as well, I suppose. So
yeah. He still looks like a young kid. So
I know the lads are going mad about the age or whatever. It's just like, get over yourselves. I'm not going. I don't care about imaginary players anymore. But David Neres at Ajax, that'd be a fella now who'd be worth looking up and thrown into the outcome. He's probably been sold to somebody else. So there's a fella called Griezmann. He's meant to be coming through as well. He's meant to be very good. And Nabil Fekir, he's meant to be brilliant as well. And Samel is
Phil, your valuation of Mane and Salah when they're 30, your inflated valuations really upsetting people in the comments.
I know, yeah.
I expect a knock at your door any minute.
I think we could get 170 million for Mane as a 30-year-old.
I think we could get a big, huge yacht for Linda.
Chris Brack there. Neres is coming back from a big Asian Champions League injury. I don't know what that means.
Phil, you real gripe about the new kit?
Oh, lads, I wanted to bring this up, and it'd probably be our last topic on it, right? But this should start everyone going. It'd be interesting to see how all the fanboys are going to go with this one, right? But honestly, I've seen so much crap about the kit, and I don't normally get involved because I'm never going to buy a jersey, right? Once you get over the age of 20, if you're buying jerseys, you basically you need to go see somebody and have a chat to them because you shouldn't be buying them. They're for kids, right? The only thing that bothers me about jerseys is I want them to look well on television. It's a bit like the crowd and the fans, right? I want to see something nice, right? New Balance had this to a T. When I turned on the television and put on the television, I saw Liverpool playing every week, right? I didn't see Middlesbrough. And this is what happened between 1992 and 1998 when our club went down the tubes, right? Basically, Adidas threw a load of white gank on the gear and we didn't even look like Liverpool anymore. It was just appalling, right? So now, we'll all talk about the Nike gear. We all talk about the Nike contract saying it's great, but it's not. There's a fucking stripe down the side of it, right? And that stripe is a giant white stripe down the side of it. It's thicker than the byline. It's thicker than the sideline. It's horrible, right? When they came out on those stadium jackets, I was expecting Brian Robson to be standing there in a suit. I thought it was the Carling Cup final or something like that. It's honestly, Nike are appalling kit makers, and I can't deal with it. I was so put off. I reckon the players were struggling. I think that's how we conceded all the goals. They kept looking around seeing these white stripes down the side of the jerseys and didn't realise they were their own players. It's terrible. And I don't know, Andy, you've gone out and spent €100 on the players' kit, and they want the whole lot. I'm lost, mate. How can people like this kit? Like, I wouldn't bury a dog in that kit. Like, it's terrible.
I just bought the kit. I just wear it around the gaff. I don't wear kits outside the house. I don't go sitting in a pub wearing the kit. Maybe going to the game, I might throw it on. But I just bought the expensive one so we'd buy expensive players. So it's just the only bit for the club. I see a lot of people in the comments saying we want serious signings. Go and buy the expensive kit.
Yeah, but it's got a stripe. Ray, you're a traditionalist like myself. Like, even last year when New Balance put those pinstripes on it, like from a distance and watched it on television, it was beautiful red. It was just a beautiful red kit. When we zoomed in, it gave you those memories of '84 and winning European Cups and Souness and all the lads. It gave you those great memories. This kit reminds me of 1993. Nothing happened in 1993. It was crap, right? We basically stopped winning leagues.
Well, I mean, I'm actually less bothered about the home kit. And you were saying about traditionalists. The thing that's really upset me, to be honest with you, is the away kit and the third kit. Like, I think they're both appalling. I think they're a complete step away from, like, they just literally, I'd say they had a selection board of about like 10 10 of their templates, and maybe they just put a fucking random light across all of them, because basically that's it. There's absolutely no link to the club whatsoever with those two kits. So I can give them a pass. No, I can give them a pass. I can give them a pass on the home kit, but I'm not giving them a pass at all on the other two kits. No way. I mean, what's wrong with an all white kit or a yellow kit or whatever? I just don't get those other two kits. I don't have a problem.
And did you buy the shorts and the socks as well, did you?
Yeah. I wear the shorts on my head. Ray, you want an all-white kit because you wanted to look like the England one. The only kit you bought in the last 10 years is that fucking appalling white one.
No, I tell you, the kit that I bought, right? I bought the Allison kit only to then see about a week and a half later some picture of, I don't know, I think it was a Russian team or something with exactly the same goalie top, and it's completely put me off it now.
Yeah. Andy, like, when I look at the Cool Pop puke away jersey, right? Because that's what that looks like. If you had a Cool Pop and you puked it all over a white piece of paper, that's what that looks like. A blue Cool Pop puke, right? It's the colour.
It's the colour of the Liverpool and the Liver buildings.
Well, that's because everything on it.
That's what it is, right?
If they went,
that's what they did.
That link was definitely made a week after. That was a invent the link competition at the club in the office.
Yeah,
honestly,
I have to say, if you take the red kit, if you take the home kit, right, and you took the white stripe off, and you just put a nice round back to the neck, I wouldn't have an issue. But like, it's the white, it goes down the stripe.
Yeah, tell me, what's the V at the back all about as well?
It's in case you're into crisscross and you want to make a jump and you turn it on backwards and you walk around with the name on the front of it. Like it's
right.
You know what I mean?
Come here. Someone makes a good point. The away kit is doing serious sales for kids, and that's what it's all about. Okay. Kids are the ones that are driving the sales, aren't they? Kids get everything they want these days, except the FSG outists.
No one gets them.
Yeah. My 6-year-old's not even into football, but he wants that bluey green kit. And I says, fair
That's
enough.
all that's wrong with football.
Yeah, but they're the ones that are going to pay for the players.
I'm just upset. I loved the New Balance colours and the home kits. They were great. And now it is right. The back fronty neck is rotten, right?
I noticed Chelsea had it tonight, and I was like, nah.
That's because the template's right. Do you remember when they got the gear and they said, we won't be doing templates for the Liverpool kit, we'll do something special for them? And they literally went and said, right, red template, job done, out the door we go. That's a sell of loads. I will say one thing though, the real casual stuff that Nike is producing, not the one that just sounds like swoosh and LFC underneath it instead of Nike.
Yeah, that's the better
that's good.
part of
that's good. Don't buy any of the expensive club. Don't buy any of the expensive club stuff at all. You can get it all knocked off in DHgate anyway, so like it's not going to cost a penny. Like, you know what I mean? Honestly,
we don't endorse that kind of activity.
Clearly, I'm only messing, but like I don't understand. You go on to DHgate and you can buy everything just with slightly like Nike instead of Nike, and it's, do you know what I mean? It's mad. How does that get on? Yeah, I will say, Jono, you're right. The PSG Nike gear is incredible, but it's not Nike they're wearing, it's the Air Jordan stuff. And the Air Jordan stuff is class. You see the PSG sort of mauvey colour type. They literally have done original stuff, and it's fantastic to look at. And Dave Lennon, I'm with you. Bring back Warrior. Do you remember that mad purple and white thing that they had? Deadly. And I also go with mad fluorescent colours. I don't want blues. I just want, and that's black thing. No. I'm not into like black checkerboard things. I don't understand it. Like Lovren's gone. We don't need to dress like Croatia. There's no need for it. You know what I mean?
Dean Murray's dead right. The Nike deal enables us to compete. Stop giving out. The three you stop giving out, please.
No. This is the show for the bottom reds, right? That's the end of it, right? But I'm saying to you, the Nike deal will only enable us to compete better if we have record sales. It's not a clear-cut deal, and in this time of pandemic, when families are struggling to find the money to buy stuff for just to exist on a day-to-day basis, I can understand why parents are upset at the fact that we have, I think, the third most expensive kit that's out there for kids. So that's something that has to be factored into.
The one really strange thing, and I haven't seen it with any other club, is how they managed to normalise the vapor kit. How they managed to make the stadium kit, which is £70, how they managed to make that out to be the fake version.
Yeah.
I mean, just with marketing, they made it so different looking in the pictures. That wasn't by coincidence. I mean, you could see from quite a distance that was a different kit altogether. It's not even the same. I mean, as I said, I went and bought the vapor one because I'm just a fucking fool for that sort of shit. And there was no way I was going to be walking around with the kind of shiny, mad looking one that they've managed to get £70 for.
Kev, I'm not a 90s kid. I'll go on the 80s kid. Michael Lee say finish on transfers. Yeah, Thiago I heard is signing this week. We've increased our deal from 30 million to 32 million euro, and Bayern are prepared to meet us in the middle at 32.75 million euro. But we've had to get Frederick Englund in off $1 million listings New York to help out with the deal, because they've got Josh Flagg. All right, so on real things, let me see. Aqua blue, greeny kit, two different colour bed, red, stiff on Mac. He's right. That stadium kit, Andy, is a different colour to the vapor kit, which is mad as well. Like
it's not in real life. It's the way the picture, the exposure on pictures, it's picked up by a camera. It's actually not. It's the same ink. It's just the way the fabric is. It's the way the light catches it. They're the same red.
I think somebody said, when do we think there'll be people let back into stadiums? Listen, Boris Johnson, anything's a lottery. There could be 500,000 allowed into a stadium next week for all we know. Like literally, it's mad stuff that goes on over there. They just change the rules every 5 weeks or so. Like I think they're talking, and to be fair, I think they're talking about letting people back into stadiums in Ireland, and we've been fairly conservative. So if they're getting back in Ireland, it'll only be a matter of time until they get back in England. And I know they're talking about October. I'd say probably the end of October we start seeing 20-25% back in it. They're talking. Somebody else mentioned the United Zebra kit. Look, at the end of the day, if you look at the stupid kits that were being produced by United, Liverpool, City, Chelsea, whoever else that's out there, it's purely to get the attraction of social media. Like that Zebra kit that they will never wear that. They will never ever wear that. But it basically took over the internet for 3 days. Everything is all about going viral, and that went viral. Andy, tell us a story. Stefan Mack wants to know.
Stefan demands a story. No, I have no story tonight.
Oh, jeez, will you work on it? Alan Brooks, I put the price up to 150 for the next few weeks so that we can buy Thiago. Great show. But that means that the price in DHgate goes up to £22.
Sterling's you got to factor in Sterling as well into this deal, Phil. You know what I mean?
Well,
Sterling about the day with this whole Brexit thing, so it could put the whole Thiago thing in complete jeopardy.
Yeah, good point. Stephen O'Connor says, what happened to Billy Bean? Do you remember about 10 days ago there was talk about Billy Bean and his investment group invested in Liverpool for some money so that we could spend it in the transfer line? Jeffrey Anthony says, tell us never. Nike, yeah, like if you come out with those quotes, it's like the Warrior one. What was that one? This means more or something like that. And then there's lunatics out there that just walk around. What was that?
That was just Dave LFC chats, no?
we come not to play. Thanks, Gav. We come not to play. Dave Lennon says, Andy, give us the toaster story.
There's no fucking way.
And Dicko wanted to know something. We're talking about 150 million for Salah. King Amir says 200 million for Salah. Yeah, I'm with that. I think we'll easily get 200 million for Salah. Not a bother there. And 300 million for Man United to go on top of that. So we'll have at least 25 million to invest in transfers the following year. Right. Andy, any other thing you want to do off topic as it's the forum and on the admin? Anything off topic you want to discuss?
No, Dave is just trying to make me say terrible things.
Is he? Yeah.
Right, where do you keep your toaster?
The toaster?
Yeah.
On next to the cooker on the kitchen counter.
Did you put it away at all?
That's because you were converted.
Yeah. Are you baptized these days, right?
You were younger, you kept it in the cupboard, didn't you?
You did. Absolutely.
Don't say it anymore.
You lads across the sea, keep your toasters in the cupboard.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good. Right. What are we going to say, Andy?
No, that was it. No, I'm not saying any more about toasters where they kept. Work it out for yourselves.
Marty spotted that my clock's 5 minutes fast. That is right. It does help when you're getting out for the school.
I was 10 minutes and 15 minutes late down to the studio. Well, we're not doing it from home.
Because you know,
sweet. That's why.
In the cupboard, Dave Lynn says, you're right. That's where you do keep your toasters if you're a Protestant. That's absolutely fine to say.
Yeah.
All right. Right. This Alejandro, mate, I don't think we should ever sell Salah or Mane. They have 3 more consistent years. Actually, do you know Peter Smith, our good friend who's normally on this means he can carry Klopp, Liverpool into the post-Klopp area. Peter Smith is mad. We all know this, right? He recently tweeted something about why isn't Robbie Keane still playing professional football because he scored a goal in that Soccer Aid match. Like, it's like, what?
He knows this game.
He does know this game.
I know this game.
If Peter had his way, Gomez would be playing in the Bobby role right now.
Yeah.
I'm keeping the Gomez talking till next week because, like, honestly, these pants at the moment, he's terrible pants. It's like ever since, I'm not even getting into it. We can talk about that next week. Right, Andy. Ray, have you anything on topic you want to say?
That was a classic sub, wasn't it? Right at the end of the game, throwing Matip when we were defending that 1-goal lead. Straight from the playbook, throwing Lovren on in the last minute and other clowns before that. Like, it was just setting them up to fail, really, wasn't it? It felt a bit that way.
Yeah, we've always done that. We did it with Lucas. It's like it's kind of written somewhere in the boot room. And, you must throw a scapegoat on, and if it all goes wrong in the last minute, it has to be your Lovrens or your Lucas's. But speaking of Matip, I think he's going to get in against Chelsea.
He might, yeah. He might.
Matip, when fit, always starts over Gomez for the main reason he's the best partner alongside Van Dijk. There's no question about it, and this is not a slight on what's his name. Gomez, right? That's just the way it is. Secondly, right, Dave Lennon, you are right. Bears for the bowl. Pity it'll be one of the college football bowls. It won't be the Super Bowl. And what was this? It was on the wall. They're changing the first time.
Wall revealed when they were changing the wallpaper. I like that one.
And it's for sure. Yeah, Rajiv, you're lost, but we're getting 300 million for Salah, and Lucas is second in tackles in Italy last season. I love that, Stefan Mack. You're absolutely right. He might have been second in tackles, but he still can't run 5 yards. Right.
What does Ian Murray mean by the first time he's seen this pod on Daytrippers feels like opposite day? What does he mean by that?
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe he not realise that we are Daytrippers, Phil?
I don't think any of them realised that the Daytrippers wouldn't exist if it wasn't for me and you.
Yeah. We are behind the scenes making this shit happen for 5 loads of years now. More than
it's like this is Nike, and Gav's just doing the Jordan bit, isn't he?
Yeah.
No, Gav is the Nike, right? We're the Cocksport.
Phil and Gav Phil and Andy are the Reebok of the station.
Yeah. Even the older, the cock sportif, Admiral. We're the Admiral. Like I'm so.
Ian Murray's just throwing out random words now. He said Gomez shouts. I don't know.
Yeah, great. That's fair play to Dane Murray. Tell you what, Dane Murray. Talk to somebody who actually cares, because if you haven't heard us, you know that we don't give a shite. Right. So where?
Ian's a good guy.
He's a good fella, and keep watching and keep sharing and keep listening. We love you all. Right.
Andy, question for you. What's this whole? I'm just going to confess that I'm not a regular viewer of that other show. What's the standard of likes? Because I've seen someone throw in here that 70 odd 104 likes. Not bad for a new show. What's that all about? What's the benchmark?
It's ratios. Yeah, so we've got 50% or 60% likes at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's pretty high. It's a high enough ratio. Sometimes
Max says that shout out to Molly, because we haven't seen Molly in ages, right? So that's great. It is big shout out to Molly and James Owens.
One of the originals. Was Molly technically one of the originals?
Yeah, Carl Dublin said bring back Brenzy and Trev. That's not happening. Brenzy is dead, as we don't know. And Trev was replaced. Trev was replaced like one of the Stepford wives. The Trev that's there isn't the same Trev that was there before. How
are we feeling about the Chelsea game? Can we maybe talk 5 minutes? How are we feeling about Chelsea? Are we more or less confident after seeing them?
No, we're not talking about football. But this is the one piece I had. I said I'll come back and start doing pods again. And said, if I don't have to talk about football, I hate football. You know this, right? I came back here.
This is the last hour talking about it.
Yeah. Look, I think I like the shout of getting Brenzy on, by the way. Could we get Brenzy on in Trev's meat suit? So we dig Trev up, put him open, stick Brenzy inside him and bring him on.
Yeah, lads, whatever happened to Steve again, went to meet Brenzy and Trev. Hasn't been seen since. That's just the way it is. If you go went walking with the fishes. Right, which football?
He thought he could get better than winning that Champions League, and he just kind of retired on a high, but then there you go, he missed out on the absolute sort of Everest being climbed, didn't he?
He's coming. He only went to base camp 1 or whatever you call it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, avalanche.
Chilled out. Had his champagne on the roof of El Corte Inglés.
Yeah,
that's it. And what did we? Chelsea are watery gash from Stefan Mack. That's right.
Full caps lock there, isn't it?
Stefan was absolutely full caps lock from about 2 minutes into this show. As soon as somebody mentioned Firmino, he was straight in.
Stefan, in fairness to him, lives on this channel.
That's fair play.
He's here all the time.
Even every time, yeah. Friends to him, yeah.
Comments waiting.
Okay, so, lads. I want to go because I'm bored of this now.
Just one more comment there. Jeffrey Anthony's pointing out there Lallana gets injured on his debut. Anyone making fun of that. Apparently, Andy Heaton is there. He's going to be putting straighteners out on anyone who's giving out about that and making fun of Lallana. He was straight to his defence on Twitter. Very funny. Yeah.
Did this really happen?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Go to Andy Heaton on Twitter. Absolutely ready to knock anyone out who made fun of that situation.
Dave Lennon is fine. He's still alive. Still talking to him regularly. Just like literally he's sort of like I'm their voice. Think of me as their voice. The people who hate Liverpool social media. That's me. I'm representing them these days, right? So I'm the bottomest red when it comes to not moaning about FSG or living in wardrobes.
Dave Lennon there. We're still looking for him, Dave Lennon. We can't find him.
Nilo, yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, Grant. So, look, lads, that has been the forum. Thank you all, forumtologists who joined in along tonight with us. Your senior forumtologist was, of course, Andy Young. Junior forumtologist there in Australia is Gar Breene, and you can notice even the lighting is thing. And then over this, I'd say I'm figuring this out now. There is Ray Dicko Dickinson live all the way from his good home in not Liverpool. I've been your host, Phil Casey. Thanks for joining in. Thanks for engaging with us. Thanks for all the comments and the likes and the not likes. Look forward to talking to you all next week. And enjoy yourself. Good luck. Good night. God bless.